Let's go. Let's fucking have at it. Okay. Hello, and welcome to Primal Attraction. I'm your host, Mela Marlity, and this is episode 1 How to Begin Reclaiming Your Power, a Starting Point. This will be a personal reflection on the early step to taking control of your life. This episode will explore the importance of recognizing where you are, setting small goals, and beginning the journey towards feeling empowered. Okay, before we get started, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you for being here, obviously, joining us on our first episode. And with that, I also want to pre-apologise, I suppose, and just say please bear with. This is going to be off the cuff, as I hope all the episodes to be, but more so in a sense of this is my first time doing something like this. So I want to lay out the vulnerability, which is actually going to be a part of the topic later on, and why it's important to do so. But yeah, again, thank you very much for being here. I'm really grateful for your time and your energy. And let's just get on with it, I suppose, right? Okay, so the starting point. With this, I kind of want to talk about where I am in my mindset at the moment and why I'm exploring personal growth, and part of that being this podcast. So I would say that I've definitely explored myself over the last 2 years. I had a major life shift happen, and I had the opportunity to take it one of two ways. I could either wear it as a chip on my shoulder, or I could have used it as fuel for the fire. And in that first instance, I really fucking did. Also, apologies for my language. That's going to be a recurring theme. But, I mean, I may as well be completely honest, right? I lost my father in February of 2022. At the same time, I was in a relationship that did not serve me anymore. And I'd been in that relationship for a fair long time. It took up essentially all of my early 20s. Within that, I lost myself completely. My friends stopped recognizing who I was. I stopped recognizing who I was and just thought that, this is what it means to grow up. You lose sides of yourself. And whilst there is validity to that and there's truth, that's not necessarily to say that that's, a constant. There will always be glimmers of who you are and who you were. But at this point in my life, I can safely say that I was dead behind the eyes. And after my father passed, it was really difficult because all those things that kept me safe and kept me comfortable started to crumble around me. Not because of my dad per se, but just in general, like things were falling away and I couldn't help that from happening. At the time, it felt all-encompassing. Now I look back and I realise, even to be fair, when I first started on the journey, I could recognise that it was actually in my favour. The things were falling for a reason. And I had the opportunity from my father's passing to really reflect on my own life. It was a mirror, right? I had the time and the power to see and analyse how he lived his life. And that was the biggest lesson that I learned from my father, was how not to live a life, right? And that's so sad in one aspect, because I wanted nothing more than for him to be a happy and healthy man. But he just wasn't. So I had to learn from that and recognise where I was going wrong in my own life. I was heavily reliant on escapism, drugs, alcohol, food, like terrible food choices, terrible body choices. I was in pure comfort in the most discomfort like discomforting way. It was so uncomfortable. I felt dread every time I had to leave home. I felt disgusting. Genuinely, I'd look in the mirror and just felt like an absolute bag of shit. And that led me on a massive journey of self-discovery, finding what it meant to be me again. And I can safely say I came out of the other side of it and I was way better off. I must admit, I feel like I've slipped, but in comparison to the person that I was, I really hope I never reach that point again. Not to say that I won't, because, you know, life is peaks and troughs, right? There's no avoiding it. There's no denying it. You can work your utmost to steer clear, but something may always just knock you back, and it's going to be the things that you least expect because you're not prepared for them, right? And lack of preparation is where you get knocked back. Within that, I really set myself on the goal of finding health, finding happiness, joy, and not apologizing for living my authentic truth. When I think of how my life has gone from that period, I mean, it was immense. My life literally changed overnight. I went from complete, just like stuck in bed, disaster, wouldn't leave the house for days on end, to walking miles and miles a day, hitting the gym twice a day, eating really healthily. I mean, I say that with a pinch of salt, and I'll explain that in future episodes. But I really transformed who I was in my body, and that really benefited me. Like, I could feel the shift. I could feel the way that things changed. But with that, the things that people don't tell you actually they do, but the things that you don't register because you don't believe it until it happens, is when your life starts going well, the people around you change completely, right? Some people disappear, some people stay. And again, it's one of those things where you have to recognize it as, this is how it's supposed to go. Some people are just in your life for a season, and that's absolutely fine. Like, you learn something. Just whatever relationship or situation you find yourself in, make sure you understand, or make sure you take something away from that. And I know that sounds quite selfish, right? Like, you look at all your relationships and you're like, you're now in a position of being like, what can I take? And no, that's not exactly what I'm saying, but analyze those people, analyze those situations, and see what pieces of information you're learning. Like, I've had a couple of friendships just, you lose touch or it falls apart. And I've noticed it's just after they've led me to do something that's really good or really bad, right? Or like, you're dating someone and they suggest you go to this place, or you do this thing, or you actually pursue that goal that you have. You start pursuing it, and then that person's gone. They were just put in your path to get you started, right? And then they've served their purpose and they've gone. That's fine. I also recognise that sounds a little bit wishy-washy, but that's my truth. That's how I feel about it. That's not to say that's never going to change, but that's where I'm at right now. I've definitely gone on a tangent there somewhere. So apologies, but back to, why did I start this podcast? Okay. This is really an opportunity for me to build something. I've always had this yearning to create something that's my own, right? Something that I can hold. It makes me feel secure. I always have something to fall back on. Or, just having something that fulfills me at its core. And something that I've learned over the last year that I didn't realise was a great skill, and I really thank my current job for teaching me that, is communication. and the ability to build relationships and generally just converse is, I'm not going to say a rare skill to have, but it's definitely an important skill to have. And I've learned that it's something that I'm really, really fucking good at. I'm really fucking good at having a conversation with someone and creating spaces for people to feel, I don't want to say safe because I don't think you can ever feel 100% safe, but to feel comfortable enough to share their truths. And there's real beauty in that. So I'm learning to value myself. And I want to create a career out of it, potentially. And I feel like this is a stepping stone towards that. So whilst I listen to podcasts all the time, I have a vision of the kind of person I want to be, right? I know exactly what that person looks like. I know what they do. I know how they go about their life. I am nowhere near that person yet, right? And I feel like that's potentially something that a lot of people can relate to. I have a real sense of needing to be perfect and polished all the fucking time. So even with this podcast, there's part of me that's like, it needs to be this, it needs to be this. But at the end of the day, I don't have the necessary experience, skills, or general lifetime to talk about the things that I want to talk about. And the future me, I know the kinds of things that she's going to want to talk about, and it's different now, but I need to figure out who I am to become that person, and this is a stepping stone towards that for me, I think, anyway. So this is really an opportunity for me to practice, to learn, have great conversations with other people that hopefully guide me in some kind of way, and in turn guide you. And just a way for me to keep accountable to myself. I've got to practice what I preach. I've got to be the person that I want to be and do the things that I say that is important in life. So that's really where I'm at. So again, I just want to reiterate the fact that this is an opportunity for... This podcast is designed at present for you guys, the listeners, to learn alongside me, to figure out who you are, maybe take away some tidbits of information. I'm hoping to find some real nuggets of gold along the way, some great gems that can stay with me for the rest of my life, and hopefully with you too. So that's why we are here. That's where Primal Attraction was born out of. I actually want to also discuss the name Primal Attraction because I know it's quite punchy. And I would say in my core, I'm a very primal person, right? That flows through all aspects of my life. I am very intuitive. I follow my gut for the most part if I don't ignore it. I like being barefoot. I like just being messy and being human in a very feminine and soft, nurturing way. And I think that I'm going to call it primality. I don't know if that's a word, but primality is something that we're slowly losing. Tech comes into play. We're not seeing the sun as much. We're stuck in concrete jungles, as cheesy as that sounds. We're not seeing nature. And I think there's real importance to becoming raw and human again, and being real and touching the grass and rewilding. Tony Riddle puts it beautifully. I think it's a great phrase, rewilding and just like accepting your fate as a human. You're born, you live, you die. At its core, that's existence. And if you're lucky enough, you breed and you create offspring. But yeah, like the rest of life is just either a distraction or an addition. But just stripping it back and finding out our purpose collectively and individually and being at one and peace and nature. Anyway, I'm sure the title will kind of come into being in its own right through more and more chit chatting. But that's really where it stemmed from, and I think that it's a memorable name. The attraction element is about attracting what you want in your life, manifesting, bringing things that you want into your aura, whether that's love, relationships, work, fitness, mental health, like spirituality, whatever. I love talking about everything, so we'll see where that goes. So I feel like I've spoken about a lot in point 1, and probably touched on some of the other points that I was planning on talking about. But I really want to talk about vulnerability and why vulnerability matters. I think that being honest and open about the struggles that you might be facing in your life is really helpful for the collective. And I say that because those issues that I was talking about before that I struggled with, had I not seen other individuals breaking free from those situations or finding ways to accept who they are, I don't know if I would have been able to do it myself. Because if you're not fortunate enough to have circles or situations or relationships in your life where you have a role model or a mentor within that sphere so that you can aim towards something, and you're in the dark so you can't even aim towards yourself, it's really bleak. But that's one of the beautiful things about things like social media. It creates a space for you to find these people that you can listen to, watch, or just generally be in their space and understand how they function and how they process and think and feel and believe, and then implement small parts of that into your own journey. When I was really struggling with self-image, which, by the way, is an ongoing struggle still, but fuck me, am I in a better place than I used to be? Seeing people accepting themselves for who they are was really... I don't want to say it was the first step, because people love to talk about love yourself, look in the mirror and tell yourself all these fucking great things. And whilst there is validity to that, it's like 100 steps down the fucking line to me, right? Actually standing in front of a mirror and telling yourself that you're fucking gorgeous is sickening when you believe the complete fucking opposite. I apologise that I'm swearing so fucking much. I'm just really passionate about this. But it's so fucking hard. I remember for me, the first steps were simply doing things like I'd stop shaving my legs. This stemmed from me from a feminist perspective, and then just after a while, in my personal instance, became laziness and a lack of self-value. Not that I'm saying that hairy legs equates to that by any means, shape or form. Any shape, means, of whatever. And I rate the girls that do it I love you guys for it. I did it for about 3 or 4 years, and then it just wasn't for me anymore, and that's fine too. But anyway, didn't shave my legs, didn't pluck my hair, my eyebrows, barely brushed my hair. In fact, I stopped using shampoo and conditioner altogether. That also stemmed from like being more into nature and more conscious of the products that I was using, but then that stemmed into, again, it was the same thing. Maybe if I tried again it would be different, but I don't think it's for me. It's not who I am anymore, unfortunately. Or fortunately, actually. From my perspective. I did not wear any nice clothing. I would wear like a size 28. I had these 2 size 28 jumpers that I would just wear every fucking wear. I wore my Crocs everywhere. I didn't paint my nails. I just completely stopped looking after myself. Completely. Ate shit, did shit, just high all the fucking time. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous, to be honest. So the first steps for me were really just kind of looking in the mirror and forcing myself to brush my hair, forcing myself to wash my hair, forcing myself to go outside, you know, seeing my friends, doing things, even though it would fill me with dread, because I'd be like, oh my God, they're going to see me and they're going to see the person I've become and just judge me, right? Everything was a fear of judgment. But anyway, I started really small, and then I hated the clothes that I was wearing. I hated them, but I had no fucking options. And my cousin came round and we went shopping. And there was this like, I was the girl that would just look at the accessories. I'd look at the handbags, buy a pair of earrings or a scrunchie that I didn't need, and then move on to a different fucking shop, rinse and repeat. But this instance, I saw this like cute crop that, to be honest, I've only ever worn once. It was like a knitted thing. It was very like Harry Styles vibe. It was on trend. In the sale bit, it was a size small. I was not small, by the way, but it was knitted so it stretched. I wore it in the changing room and I was flabbergasted that something in Zara fit me. And it was like a £5. So I was like, yeah, that's coming home with me. And then my cousin would just come up to me with these cute dresses, which, by the way, I still wear to this day, even though they're too big for me now, because they really remind me. If I could get those dresses framed, I fucking would, because I shit you not when I tell you that shopping haul triggered this whole thing for me. It was as simple as that. It was as simple as wearing a dress that fit me. For me to be like, oh, okay, I can do this shit. So I bought like every colour that they had of the dresses that I really liked. I spent like £200, which was unheard of for me in a clothing shop. And I wore those dresses on repeat all summer. I did the same this year. I wear them with flip-flops because I do not have shoes still that look good, but that's fine. And they made me have the confidence to wear a little bit of makeup, and then the makeup became more like me. I started winging my eyeliner again. I started wearing a bit of lippy. Then I started plucking my eyebrows. Then I started like considering how I wanted my hair to be, and I got a fringe and all that shebang. And then with the confidence, you know, you carry yourself differently. People look at you differently, and then that builds you up a little bit more. And then just thought, fuck it, let's get a gym membership. Got a gym membership. The first session at the gym, I shit you not, I drove to the car park. I looked at the gym and I drove straight back out again. That was my first session at the gym. It took me doing that 3 or 4 times to be comfortable and confident enough to even step foot in the gym. right? So that's when I say taking the tiniest fucking little steps. It might feel like it's nothing, but honest to fucking God, it's something. And through that, even having the confidence to drive to the gym, I managed to lose 25 kilograms, change how I felt about myself, my perception. I was sober. I was working on myself. I was happy. I could feel the years adding on to the end of my life again, right? It was incredible. But then I think 6 months into my sobriety, and I don't regret this because I've experienced life in a different way over the last year and a half, and I had so much fun. And one of my friends was like, "Oh, do you want a bit of Charlie?" And I'd never done it before. And I thought, fuck, when am I ever going to get the chance? Like, let's just do it this one time. See what you're missing. I did the Charlie. It's fucking... I'm not going to lie to you. It's fucking incredible. It's fucking incredible. The confidence it gave me was like on top of the confidence I already felt. I was on fucking fire. No one could have told me anything. I was incredible. I was beautiful. I was the it girl in my head. Now I know that I've sold that as a very sad story there. I feel I've really made it sound like I went into a massive situation. I didn't. It simply just distracted me from the ultimate goal, which was weight loss, finding myself, figuring out who I am, with like bigger goals in mind, because then I started getting back into like the major party culture, having the drinks again, doing whatever, whenever. And I'd done a couple of, like, I'd gone out sober and been absolutely fine, had the best raves, great times out, or great nights out even. But this instance, it just took me back, and it continued for a year and a half after that. Some situations weren't great for me. I was led astray a few times. I did some dumb shit, as you do. And I really lost sight of who I was and what I was working towards. And I was working really fucking hard, guys. So it was really disappointing. I could feel myself disappointing the people around me that were really like on my side with this. But yeah, that's where I'm at. That's my story so far. I'm just now starting to get back into it. I've been sober for 5 weeks. 5 weeks, yeah. I'm really happy about it. I'm really excited about it. And I am letting go of old habits and patterns that have not been serving me. So those are some of the things that I want to unpack in future episodes, whether that's on my own or with some guests. We'll see. But that's why I think vulnerability matters. That's why I think it's important, because now you can see me for what I am, or for who I am, and that might be able to help you connect with me or relate to me in some kind of way, or not, or use me as a lesson, things not to do. Use me as what I use my dad as. But this is my first step in creating that accountability for myself in a way that I feel comfortable with, in a way that I don't feel is 110% invasive. And I say that with a lot of fucking irony, because the reality is I just told you whatever the fuck's going on in my life to an extent at the moment. And that to me is less scary than posting an Instagram post about it. In fact, the one thing about starting this podcast that fucking freaks me out the most is posting about it. It's not even fucking talking about it or doing it. It's the actual admin behind it. It's the judgment. right? Like, I know that some people are going to be listening to this and they're going to be thinking, what the fuck is she doing? This is fucking embarrassing. These are the thoughts that are running through my head. I might be wrong. These are narratives that I've created, but what the fuck is she doing? Why the fuck is she telling all of us that? Like, she's fucking insane. That's embarrassing. Those are the things I'm hearing in my head. But if one of you who listened to this has taken something away, I'm not going to lie to you, I can't really remember what I've said, so I don't know what the fuck that is. But, yeah, if there's something great in there, then fucking take it, fucking run with it, mate. Absolutely just run to the ends of the earth. Do what you gotta do, be who you gotta be, and just be the best version of yourself. I went to a concert the other day. It was Cigarettes After Sex. Brilliant, by the way. It's such simple staging, lighting, visuals, but it just left a fucking impact. But I was stood there, and I, as we touched on before, have this need to be a perfectionist and be able to see myself in these positions and emulate the most successful people rather than just emulating myself and just being me, right? And in that moment when I was watching the lead singer on stage, like, he's a very particular guy. You can tell, you can see it. You know, he knows what he does it really well. He's not trying to be anything that he's not. And I just thought, if he tried to put up a production like Sabrina Carpenter or Ariana Grande or whoever else is like at the height of pop or whatever, Taylor Swift, whoever, right? And he tried to do that, it just wouldn't work. The music would be lost. He would be uncomfortable. He wouldn't be able to sing in the same way, have the same presence. It would all just go amiss. But that's not to say that him as a performer is terrible. And it's not to say that if Sabrina Carpenter just stood on a stage, didn't move, black and white, just in jeans and a top, would she have the same... Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I think that situation just taught me, just be the best version of yourself. Because ultimately, no one else can emulate that. You can just be you. And that's what I'm hoping to learn through this. So on that note, I'm gonna start wrapping things up, because otherwise I'm gonna be sat here until like 7 p.m. just chatting absolute shite. But I'm gonna invite you to kind of hear what I've said, take a moment to reflect on your own lives. If it's going really well, reflect on what's going brilliantly, make a note of it, be conscious of it, be grateful for it. If it's not going so great, own that. Admit to yourself that it's not going so great, you know. There's so much truth and power in being able to just appreciate that you're doing shit. And I'm sorry that you're doing shit if you're doing shit, but it is what it is, mate, at the end of the day. So what can you actually just do to get out of it? What's that tiny step that you can make? What's your drive to the gym and just sitting in the car park, you know? What is that for you to start helping yourself dig yourself out? Because, to be honest, nothing in the world is like, no one else in the world can really just help you out in that sense. You might seek it. You might think, oh, if I jump into this relationship, or if I get this coach, or I do this thing, or do whatever, it's going to magically make every single problem disappear. That's not the case. You can use those things as resources to help you guide yourself. But as I just said, it's yourself. It's you and you. You've got to dig yourself out. So if you are going through it, have a moment, whether that's 30 seconds, 5 minutes, an hour, just to reflect. Again, journal or note down. But just reflect. Anyway, with all that being said, thank you so much for listening to my first ramblings. I hope you had a great time. I hope I answered what the title of this podcast is. which, by the way, I cannot remember, so I'm going to have to just scroll up. How to begin reclaiming your power, a starting point. I think I answered that pretty well. Let me know if I did or didn't. Let me know if there's anything else you'd want to talk about. Otherwise, you can find me on Instagram at Melamality or Primal Attraction Podcast. But yeah, I hope this is the first step to something really fucking cool. So stick with me, kids. Let's see what we can create together. Alright, bye.